Now, not to state the obvious, but it seems that the climate is still changing and not particularly in our favor. So what's being done about it? ILTV's Asaf Nissan reporting.
The world is facing a climate crisis. It's nothing new. But over the last year, record after grim record shattering like glass, massive floods in Europe devastating the continent to an unprecedented level, likewise flooding in China, fires and droughts raging across Siberia and California, even extreme cold in Brazil. And all this with a death toll of hundreds and thousands, more than that losing their homes and all their belongings. In Germany, for example, the floodwater is rising so rapidly that an entire 60-year-old town erased in the rains.
The water rose 2 meters in 15 or 20 minutes, he told us. People tried to save their things, went into their basements, and unfortunately got trapped.
Meanwhile, 2021 also bringing us U.S. Hurricane Ida, which devastated whole towns in its wake, particularly across the United States.
And when we moved here, these people was telling us that they never had a flood here, and we have been through 2 here.
And leading experts are saying that this is only the beginning, that we are about to face a more extreme climate, and that it will only grow worse from here on out. So what is the world doing to slow this bleak and seemingly unstoppable situation? Well, so far, world power is coming forth to discuss major issues such as global warming and pollution during the climate change conference in Glasgow.
This is a decisive decade in which we have an opportunity to prove ourselves. We can keep the goal of limiting global warming to just 1.5 degrees Celsius within our reach if we come together.
But as for the startup nation, Israel also doing what Israel does best, fostering the development of new technologies known as climate tech. Climate tech is a technology that is expectedly focused on addressing the impacts of global warming by investing in transportation, sustainability, and other various energy solutions. Aleph Farm, for example, sustainably cultivating lab-grown meat for human consumption. And E-Concrete, too, which is working on creating concrete that is both biodegradable and sustainable. But still, the question remains, is humanity's time already under existential threat, or can solutions like these be our salvation?
And now joining us with more on the Israeli climate tech boom, climate tech sector lead with Startup Nation Central, Yael Weisz Zilberman. Yael, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so, what are some of the biggest drivers, I want to add, behind investments in climate tech in Israel, aside from the need to address natural disasters?
Well, we're experiencing in the last year and a half, more or less 2 years, around globally, tremendous a new drive around climate tech, new interest coming from investors as well as companies, global multinationals, as well as policymakers. It's basically a group of elements that are coming all together at the same time. It has to do a lot with the urgency around climate tech, the advancement of policy, global policy around it, as well as the advancement of technologies that are now opening new possibilities and new markets.
And this was not really you think the environment to support these types of companies just didn't exist a couple years ago? Is it all the...
It's definitely more advanced. That's what we're experiencing in the last couple of years.
So where are the prominent areas in climate tech that Israel in particular stands out?
Well, there are a number of areas. I think that Israel has a tradition, particularly around renewables and solar energy and water tech.
Sure.
But in the last...
Irrigation is a famous first one.
Of course. It all started from there, from us trying to address our acute existential needs that now have become much more joint needs with other countries.
Practically standard practice, really, in many countries now.
Israel stands out completely in the field of water tech. There's no doubt about that, particularly in desalination as well as water usage. But in addition to those more traditional areas, there are a number of additional fields where Israeli technology is both very well recognized, as well as there are lots of success stories of implementation. We're talking about, particularly in the area of mobility, electrification, alternative proteins, which is another topic that is very much connected. There are people that may not recognize it as a climate tech
But it's not, I mean, it's like the cultured meat programs. For example.
Exactly.
Sure.
Alternative proteins and precision agriculture. The technologies that are associated and aligned with the needs for addressing sustainability and climate change are wide and come from all the way from agri-tech and food tech through energy, transportation, manufacturing, and circular economy. So it's a very broad.
All right, so I guess my final question is, what is Startup Nation Central doing to help it develop or push some of these companies and the Israeli climate tech industry forward?
So Startup Nation Central is a nonprofit that is dedicated to advancing Israel's innovation ecosystem to support its economy, its society, as well as to enhance its standing around the world. And we're actually devoted, one of our strategic sectors of focus has become lately climate, the climate tech sector. One of the initiatives that we're launching really soon, I'm talking about the next 2 weeks,
wow.
It's what we call the Climate Solutions Prize. Actually, it's a joint initiative of us with a number of philanthropic organizations, including JNF Canada, CACAL, and others, the Paris Center for Innovation, for Peace and Innovation. And the idea here is to really create an incentive for more elements of the Israeli tech ecosystem to understand that there is a market opportunity in addressing climate change and to pivot towards that, as well as to create a platform for global players to tap into that innovation as of today.
All right, well, good luck with the prize, with that program. And I mean, this sounds absolutely incredible. Yael, thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure.
ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at iltv.tv and watch from any device.